and so they're gonna get like a close-up of my, yeah, well, it's, I have a webcam, but no, you're fine.
If I need to write something, if I'm trying to prepare for something, that's when it all comes.
Yeah, there's been some requests to do live streams, and so I'm not quite there yet without, I have a few people that do that,
I
but
did 2 weeks ago, I did.
operating it.
There's always the option of hire.
Yeah.
I just actually hired someone for
Yeah.
something that
And then
it takes me like 2 hours to do
all
all
I need
so
to
you can do it in 5
is
minutes.
close my eye and lay down.
Yeah.
I hear that all the time.
Yep, okay. Hello, Michael's gone.
Deep voice and all all these women. I'm not used to that.
What is your business?
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Class is going to resume.
We're gonna have some commercial interruptions here. I want to let Lisa tell you a little bit about hers, but I just had a note here that it's anonymous, but I'm pretty sure I know who it is. It says I'll happily teach meditation classes soon if there's peeps that want it. Peeps, if these peeps want it. Okay, got it. I don't want to get misquoted. So that's cool. So if anybody's interested, Amy's ready to launch some meditation. Also, there's a chocolate meditation date night, Friday night here. You can be with a friend or a lover or an enemy or whoever. Just bring somebody. Amy's like, she told me about this thing in March, and she got the word chocolate out of the 2 words chocolate meditation, and Courtney, my partner, just like from across the room at the expo was just like right there, right? So I'm really clear that the 2 co-conspired on this whole idea, and then just kind of brought it together in my presence at this expo. But then it's kind of grown, and Amy starts, well, what if we did it with like a date night so that people, had an option from going to a movie and a dinner or something like that, and we could have music, and we could just allow people to truly be with each other as a couple, out phones, without distraction, and just maybe have some conversation to a brief talk to stimulate it, do a meditation, and just meditate with each other, basically, is what I get from what you're creating, and it's super exciting to me, and we may be the only ones there this week, I don't know, but we'd love to have you guys if you want to come.
Did y'all notice my shirt today?
Yes.
Oh, I did.
I absolutely did.
I'm like totally bringing the chocolate all around.
Yeah. So Dutch Boy, right? We got, they're on board. So,
Oh, nice.
wow.
which is the first place I went to when I first came to Kingsville. It was like, because my dad's side is Dutch, and I saw that sign as I pulled into town, and I was like, wow, it was just cool energy, right? So I pull over and I go in there, and they got their little hats and the awesome display that they've got in there, and it was just, I don't know, they dropped a few bucks.
It's so good.
So do you have people signed up for it?
We actually just have 1 couple signed up, but there's more people coming.
Yeah, I can feel it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's happening. So it's going to be exciting, and we're going to do them once a month at least through the holidays, because we want to do one for Christmas, and I think it's just going to be a kick. And obviously, we probably won't be able to do it outside, but I can't wait to. We're looking at doing them in the spring and the summer, so that we can have a big white tent out there with lights and just like. I just think it's going to be a riot. Yeah, by this time next year, I can only imagine what this house will be rocking. So, yeah.
We should have brought like the pictures that I've been texting you.
Yeah, you can put them up on Facebook. So, yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
string lights outside, lots of blankets, pillows. We're gonna do some in here and some outside. It's gonna be super awesome.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be a gorgeous night. So, yeah, it should be
It's
fun.
been a beautiful week.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So really quickly before President's Process is happening in Windsor, and if you're not sure and you want to talk to me about what that is all about, let me know. It was really a fun group there. I'm really excited for next week to start. The other thing is that Rob and I, my other partner Rob, he and I we did some access work together. We did a lot of exchanges at his house in LaSalle for a lot of years. It's gone through a lot of different morphs and changes. We've been asked a lot to do an energy class together. We were ready and then we weren't ready, and we've done a couple of bars classes together, but we wanted to do our own thing now. And so, long and short of it is 25th, 26th, something, that weekend of October.
On the calendar.
That's
you guys
yeah.
know it?
I know. Well, you are the
I think
calendar.
it's the 25th.
Yeah,
I'll look.
yeah. And there's a post of it on Facebook. We just got it out this week. The non-published title is going to be Beyond Bars and Reiki, because what we've really noticed from a lot of the exchanges is that people have been coming and bringing their capacities and their knowledge of their way of doing Reiki or their way of doing other energy work, and really through all these years have been a real contribution to the exploration of what's possible with our bodies and energy work. And then Rob and I are always playing, and we do a lot of one-on-one stuff together. And anyway, we just finally just found a date that worked for him and worked for me, and so I'm really excited about it. So we're gonna do an intro, probably exchange kind of thing somewhere between now and then for you guys to get a taste of it if you want. And then we're gonna do the first part of the class on Friday night.
The 25th.
Yeah, which will be, I don't know what we did, 20 something cheap, $35 or $25 or something for that first night. We'll probably do like 3 hours. We'll have massage tables here. We can play around. We can give you some instruction, kind of give you a taste of what we'll do on Saturday. And then the Saturday class, I believe, will be 10 to 4:30 is what it is on the calendar. And if people get really geeked, and we may go later than that, but that's basically what's there. And who knows? It's going to be crazy. So anyway, that's coming up. Now, Lisa's going to be doing a talk next Wednesday in the interim week. And so do you want to?
What are you going to be talking about, Lisa?
So the topic I'm going to be talking about is
Do you want to practice being up here? Because I can.
No, I'm good right
Are
here.
you? I thought maybe it'd just be a little icebreaker for you.
No.
Okay, all in good time. I got it. Yeah.
Mindset, the key to healing. So I had posted a quick little video that I had recorded with the person that I had learned energy work or access to consciousness and things like that. I was sick for 10 years with Hashimoto's and just a whole list of ailments that never ended. And I did all the work, eating the food you're supposed to eat, all the exercising, everything that you were supposed to do, but I was getting worse and worse. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? What is it that I'm missing? And that it was my mindset. I was working from a place of lack and, like you'd mentioned, all the programming. So once I got to like my rock bottom, then I was open to hear this access consciousness and all the other things that you mentioned. And once I tapped into all the programming that I had instilled myself or through family, friends that you pick up on, it just opened up an avenue in a different life. And I live pretty much the same, but the way I view it is completely different. So it's pretty much me sharing my entire story from the victim perspective to, wow, everything is a gift, but it just depends on how you look at it. And I felt like even my journey through the healing and health was a gift in itself, because it made me know what it feels like to be on the one side and then to be on the other side, so I can have empathy for the person and have that compassion, which is what you need. You can't just be like, hey, do this. Well, it's not that easy sometimes, and I know, because sometimes someone would suggest something to me and it would take me a year just to jump on that suggestion. So Yeah, so that's what I talk about. It's gonna
That's
be all my
exciting.
own personal stories to it.
Amazing.
The journey of Lisa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Journey of Lisa, it's still going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never ends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every day I write a page.
Yeah, and, you know, I've had a number of people that I've talked with about Hashimoto's, and I have a really good friend of mine who is like one of the leads at this health food store in the States. What's really cool about that is she was a nurse for a long time, so she's got that side as well as the nutritional side. And thyroid, as you all know, and probably some other people, is a real, I'm going to say, interesting conversation in this belt of the world, because it has a lot to do with our diet and a lot to do with the climate. And it's far more prevalent, maybe not to the extreme of Hashimoto's that everybody has, but there's a lot of women especially that deal with thyroid stuff. So kudos, because I get that whatever that sharing is, that energy that you be, it'll open up for more people to become aware and maybe not have to go as far as you did with it in that discovery. And really interesting that in last night's discussion, the presence process, because Michael Brown went through, and now I've got Hashimoto's in my head, and it starts, I think, with an H, this thing that he had, and it was kind of a rare deal. But anyway, he went around to medical as well as all other sorts of modalities to deal with this illness that he had, and eventually got the download for the presence process, and that's ultimately what he was able to use to heal himself. And he doesn't use the word heal, he uses the word integration. And part of the reason that he says that is that it's a matter of, like you said, it's integrating all those thoughts, feelings, and emotions that we believed as real, that we've solidified and crystallized in our bodies, that ultimately can get released and let go of if we're willing to recognize that Mr. Stupid here is the one that created them. And if we created them up here, then we definitely have the roadmap, the schematic, to uncreate them. To me, that makes a ton of sense. If we get really to that level of knowing that we create everything in our lives, if we created the disease, D-I-S-EASE, in our bodies, or the malady, or what have you, that we solidified that in our body, then somewhere we have the knowing how to unwind it and uncreate it. And that's why I love these stories, that's why I love this book, because this process that he's come up with is super powerful. And I like the fact that it's doable at your own pace through the book at your own pace. I mean, it's a 10-week course, but it's doable at your and it mimics exactly what you're talking about, Lisa. So, I can't wait to be here next week. So, that's it. All right. So, I mentioned 3 words earlier, and I'm hoping that somebody somewhere got a question, because I can ramble, you guys know that, but I really hope that if there's something out in the space that we can kind of, obligation, how we obligate ourselves to other people, places, and things. Selfishness, which really caused a few ripples last week, or 2 weeks ago, I think. And this idea of being misunderstood is like pretty big topic. And so if there's any one of those that you guys want to go into, or you got questions, let's go. We got, another half hour on the Stonehouse talks. Yeah.
Just got a little share on obligation, because that was one thing that was really weighing on me before. That was kind of like part of like the healing process. And obligation as a mother, that what we have to do as a mother, like we have to work, we have to do this.
Thank you.
when I let go of the obligation, I'm like, I have 2 children that are 14 and 12. I'm not obligated to do this and do this, do this. So I started delegating. Not obligation, delegating. Like, I'm the mom, I'm doing this and this and this, but you also have a role in this, and that's where you said where sometimes when there's a change, then the kids are like, what's going on? Mom's giving us chores now. This is not cool.
What's going on?
Right?
Mom's drinking again.
I know. Like,
Mom's hit the bottle.
this went to a whole new level.
Yeah.
But it's actually very freeing because I gave myself permission to, you know, like they're old enough now. Like
Yeah.
I don't have to change their diaper
Yeah.
anymore. They're self-sufficient. All I gotta do is make sure there's food on the table and they have a roof over their head, and that's it. So
That's
that
awesome.
part was very freeing.
Yeah, yeah, and here's the other piece of that, that's exactly, right, like that, when we own who we are, we actually give other people permission to be who they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's an imitation. When we water ourselves down and be less than our greatness, we instill that in our kids and those around us. And so anybody who's not really willing to step into who you are, get the imitation that you're being to those around you.
Yep, I see that. I see my kids are actually really good cooks, but the opportunity wasn't there, right? But now it is, and every night I have a full schedule, but I'm like, no, God said He would never give me anything that I couldn't handle, so I'm like, this is a compliment. So, all right, let's do this. And I come home, and the kids help me cut all the vegetables, the fruits. One's stirring the pot, the other one's doing this. They might not like me right when I say, hey, let's get together, but by the end of it, there's really good conversations and laughter that happens that was missing before, right?
Yeah.
So
And what a cool time for family meditation. Because we think on some level that meditation is sitting in the old, right, on a cushion, like doing that. It's anywhere where you are connecting to you, whether it's doing a painting or a drawing or cooking. I used to love coming home and cooking. It was so relaxing to me. To me, that doesn't work for everybody, but to me, it was getting this stuff out, preparing it. It was like just this whole way of meditating and preparing the food, and you know, so contrary to whipping by and picking up a pizza or something like that, wolfing it down. There's a whole different energy to it. And when we start to take on ourselves and the honoring of ourselves, food is a big one. Food is huge. We start to respect ourselves with the food that we eat and the liquids that we drink. So that whole doing things together is such a missing in this, gotta do this, gotta get the kids home from, you know, I was out working at my son-in-law's, I've been doing their kitchen, and, you know, they never stop. They never stop. The kids have all this frickin' homework at first grade, which is insane in my world. They then have soccer, tennis, They never stop. They never get a chance to be kids. Now, fortunately, you know, I've done enough of this stuff that I don't have to be the up-and-coming master of their universe. But I just watch this and I'm just like, wow. And I know they're not the only one. But some mom, some Mrs. Smith somewhere's got to go, no, my kids really don't want to play soccer. You know, like that ought to cause a ripple in the neighborhood. Nope, I'm not doing that. I'm not running them all over the state and into another country. I know people here in Leamington and Kingsville, they're over in the States at least 2 weeks a month doing these soccer things. I'm like, really? Do the majority of them even want to do that?
No.
Do we even ask them whether they want to
Kids
do
are
that?
living through their parents.
Exactly.
Their parents couldn't do it, so the kid's
Yep.
going to, whether they want
And
to
the
or not.
parents don't want to look bad to the other parents.
Yeah.
They don't want to be the first one to go, nope, not gonna do it. Right? How much of that is in there? That's another piece of that obligation thing. Because we're not willing to step up and be who we truly be for fear of whatever that is. Oh yeah, misunderstanding. When we get that we're not really at the effect of what other people's thoughts are of us, there is a ton of freedom.
And the fact that the sad part is it's the people that can't afford it that are trying to keep up with the neighbors because they're obligated to fit into the neighborhood.
And that's really another piece that's really prevalent of like where we've gotten to where this whole keeping up with the Smiths and Joneses has gotten to a whole new. I was down with Courtney's family down in Orlando at Disneyland World. I mean, that's not a cheap little escapade. And when you see these families down there with 4 or 5 kids that you know the guy isn't making $250,000 or $150,000 a year, I mean, it's written all over his face. He's just bleeding money in these places. Now, really? And we keep setting it up for more and more and more and more of that. We're not willing to go, wow, are we really being responsible here? Are we really forwarding the conversation we know is possible by, flipping Frozen on, or any of these other cartoons on that we know are flipping the whole machinery of this materialistic conveyor belt. And the minute we're at the grocery store and they see a Frozen thing, or they're at Target, or they're at wherever, and the kid's already trained you to just whang when he doesn't get his way, or her way. And now it starts. Kids are not stupid. They're not stupid. They have manipulation down pat. And we need to take a lesson from that. Manipulation's not a bad thing. We've made it bad. We've made that word manipulation bad. But it's not. Kids do it miraculously because they take everything into their equation and they're not giving up. And what if you were like that with something that you truly wanted in your life? You know you've done it. If you wanted it bad enough, there wasn't an obstacle, there wasn't a yeah but in the conversation. And think about it. Think of something that you created in your life that there was no stopping you. You weren't looking around the corner for the obstacle and why you couldn't do it. You just kept plugging ahead, plugging ahead, plugging ahead. That's what a kid does. He goes to his mom, I want a popsicle. No, it's almost dinner time. Comes back 2 minutes later, Mom, I want a popsicle. No, we're almost ready for dinner.
2 minutes later.
A couple minutes later. Yeah, right?
I have a 7 and a 2-year-old.
Yeah,
so.
there you go.
Guess what? There's no popsicles in the house, so
Right.
you can't even know about the popsicle.
Yeah. But here's the thing. 2 things. One, on some level, we source that behavior. Right? The other side of it is, let them. We think they're stupid. They're not stupid. Here's what will happen. He'll sit down at some point, eat a box of popsicles, either get sick, find out he's going to have brain freeze, his mouth falls out, whatever that is, and eventually he'll stop. If not, his body actually is okay with it. It's just our point of view that it's not good. And if you think it's that not good, don't have it in the house. Period. But the thing about telling kids they gotta go to school when they don't want to, okay, don't go to school. Within a couple of days, they're gonna be bummed out because they're not hanging out with their friends. They're feeling weird because they're the only kid not at school. Not because they're sick, they're not at school. And they're gonna be bugging you to drive them to school. We just have it all twisted around up here because we know better. It may not compute, but
No,
it's,
it's not that confused, but like,
it's not as easy to implement, and then
I get it.
I mean, I let her stay home from school sometimes when she's
Yep.
well, now I can because I don't have to go to work.
Is she,
So it's a possibility
so, wow,
in her
how
life,
brilliant,
but prior it
how
wasn't.
smart is she? Is she like pretty?
She's smarter than me, which
Oh
is
yeah,
the
she's
problem.
like super
Yeah.
aware, really smart, and school is killing her.
She's
School is
actually
killing
pretty
her.
good.
Like I
She-
just got the, did you get the, anybody else get the energy of this? Like why this kid doesn't want to go to school? Because it's excruciating.
Yeah. No, she's not. I would let her if she really wanted to. Usually it's like, oh, my tummy hurts a lot. I'm like, okay, well, go and see, and then if you know.
But just follow me through on this.
Okay.
These kids are super fast and they're getting stuck in an antiquated system. Not only antiquated, it's excruciating. They're sitting there as fast as lightning and they're watching somebody that's been trained to do this feed them something that they could pretty much care less about. And we're making it a mandate that they go day in and day out. Does this make sense to anybody? Doesn't make sense to me. It hasn't made sense to me since I was in the first or second grade.
I think it depends on the kid, completely.
Absolutely, but
I
I would
mean-
say it's more and more the majority, especially with all these kids that are autistic or OCD or ADHD or all that. They're just super fast. And this reality categorizes them, in my interesting point of view, to being something not normal when they're actually extremely beyond normal, but we want to make it wrong. And then we hook them up with a shrink that wants to medicate them, and when you got a bunch of little zombie kids running around that are actually the new leaders of the planet. Because the autistic kids are super, super, super fast. And they're bringing in information that us guys can't quite keep up. Just my interesting point of view and a little bit of a rant.
I wouldn't say my daughter's autistic, so that definitely doesn't, like she's not.
But there's a lot in the community, yeah?
Yeah. I don't know.
On that
hear.
spectrum, as they say, on that spectrum,
Yeah.
as they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these kids are really bright.
Well, and like Tessa just challenges me a lot, right? And she'll say, well, why, Mom? Why? Like she asks that question every time. And
You didn't do that as a kid, I'm sure.
I didn't actually. I don't think I sucked as a kid. I just like did everything everybody wanted me to do. And
Yeah, but
my
did
older
you know?
sister
Did you have
challenged a
some
lot.
knowing of what you were you more aware or less aware than your parents?
That's a great question.
Thank you. Getting good at
I
that.
had an older sister who challenged all of their.
Oh well, see
their
that's what happened. See, I was
boundaries,
the
right?
older brother. The
So
oldest.
I
yeah.
kind of knew the boundaries
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
kind of like,
Good.
that looks like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good. I'm
Yeah.
okay.
So
I mean, if I had a kid that didn't I didn't really challenge my parents too much.
no, but you
But
were
my
that
parents-
aware,
Yeah,
and you were paying attention to your older sister and what worked and what didn't
for
work.
sure.
And so
for
now
sure.
you got a little guideline to ping and dance
For
and
sure.
move within that, so that you can navigate.
Absolutely.
So I would
Okay.
call that awareness.
Yes, I'm very smart actually.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for pointing that out. It's
And
taking
so are your
years to
kids.
realize that actually, hasn't it?
Funny how that came up, right? Like, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And it's really important just to acknowledge yourself for it. Because this reality doesn't do a lot of that. And really allow your kids to acknowledge themselves for how brilliant they are. Because when they can shift their conversation at home about that, they can actually then be in school with a whole different frame of mind. Because I'm not so stupid to think that this whole school system is just going to get dumped this year and rebuilt next year. I've been waiting for it for a long time, and that's why I started the Blooming Kids Creation Camp, because I know that in order to have this thing, we have to start with the kids, and we have to educate the parents from that point of view, and that we can't do it within the school system because there's so much rigidity and solidity in there that people are so stuck and locked into that format and that programming. But if we do it over here in a camp and we shift the conversation even a little bit, those kids can start to show up in school with a whole different point of view, that they aren't wrong, that they aren't not normal, that they are their brilliance, they are their miraculous, they are their uniqueness, YOUNIQUENNESS, and that they can be that voice in the world that they already are. That's where I see this thing can start to change. But we as parents or grandparents need to be that invitation to these kids, not for beating it into them, just letting them know there is another way. Letting them know that they are valuable, that they are amazing, that those talents, capacities, and abilities that they have, that they want to explore, that may not be reading, writing, and arithmetic, are valid and follow.
I
And
think
ask
they're
us, do they want it?
stereotyped so quick.
Absolutely.
And you're a product of your environment.
Yep.
When we were growing up, yeah, okay, that kid might have been a little bit slow, but there certainly wasn't any because he's slow, he's got ADHD, or
Right.
because he's slow, he's autistic,
Yep.
or because he's slow. Some kids just don't pick up as fast as other kids. And
At
I think
different times,
these
right?
teachers right away, grade 1, grade 2, oh, you're autistic, which autistic is different, I understand, but the ADHD, and some kids are just hyper. It's not because they have ADHD, they're just hyper. Like,
Tessa said that to me. Well, I sat for like 2 hours at school today, Mom. Like running, climbing up our. Oh man, we have so much to climb
Yeah.
already. It's just like,
Yeah, yeah.
where are you guys? Just look on the ceiling. That's.
It's funny how the moms show up, right? Like it's funny because I mean, all my classes, it's 90% women, 95 probably. We had an exchange one night that it was actually even men and women. It was like crazy because it's just not what happens in these conversations, right? Michael's been a trooper, but I pay him to show up. But,
I still haven't decided though whether that's because his wife makes him come, or because he really truly.
No, I truly enjoy coming, seriously. I like to come.
and he knows I'll feel sorry for his Steelers. I bleed for him. But it's interesting, and I really think that this is the conversations that are wanting to be out there. And so kudos to you guys that are moms, really. I mean, I know the fact that you're even here, you're already doing something different with your kids. And you're constantly looking for how you can be better in that role and not succumb to the pressures and the lead of this reality. It's not all wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying exactly what you said, is how much of it is being done from a need to do or a have to do or a should do rather than an inner knowing. And then truly allowing them to recognize their talents, capacities, and abilities as being unique and run with it. Because this reality will squash it out of you before you're 7 years old. It's already been proven. Bruce Lipton talks about it, that by 7 years old, 95% of their being has been programmed. 5% left conscious at the age of 7. Now, I'd like to say that that's not all the parents. It's not just the parents. It's every factor that's in their community, in their culture, in their wherever they are in the world. So I say it's up to us to start having more and more of these conversations and not telling people how to do it, but just be the energy of that, be the invitation of what's possible in these conversations with these kids. Whether you just shoot them a little energy, walking through the grocery store, because you see them, we feel them. We feel those kids. They're getting dragged around like they're a dog on a leash.
But don't you think that the parents need that energy as well? You should be shooting that energy at that mother that's.
Well,
They
yeah,
are
I mean,
with
that's
each other.
the whole thing, but again, we were talking at the break about this is the noticing, and it's also, I'm not advocating that with everybody that you see, it's just, there's an energy that we can be to let anyone know that there's another possibility, just by being. And that's the true invitation to being the change you want to see in the world. Because it's not going to happen by anybody telling anybody anything. It's about noticing. This question that I came up with a number of years ago was, what's required here? Really noticing in every situation that we're in, what is required in that situation. It goes beyond, or at least explores greater, that responding idea rather than reacting idea. So then it's a matter of, once that question and you get the energy from that question, then it's, what can they receive? Typically what I've noticed in those situations where the mom or the dad is, you know, you can just feel that energy when you're in the store. I mean, you knew exactly what I was talking about. A lot of times it's the kid that's willing to receive it. The parent is still in their space and they're like a rock of granite. And it's not that it's wrong to, you know, emit that energy or be that invitation with them. It's not about changing them. It's just being that energy and allowing them to notice and grab onto it. The minute we had this kind of discussion 2 weeks ago, the minute we go to fixing, needing, helping, any of that stuff, it's an empowerment and it's a judgment. And I know you know that, and I'm just saying it to be clear. And so it's really about, when we recognize what is required here and then go to the noticing of what can they receive, it's typically the kid that's screaming for it. Because we all were. We all were asking in some way for somebody to notice who we were, to be heard in the world. There are so many I'm not worthy, I'm not enough conversations in the world right now to not have many of us having had that conversation as kids. So that's all I'm saying, is that it's not about trying to change anything. It's just about being that energy and expanding that energy out when you see a situation like that, so that kid can resonate with what he already knows and knows that that's still available in the world. Does that help? Make sense?
Yeah, and I noticed that children will recognize that energy in you.
Absolutely.
You know, when you get that eye to eye,
Oh.
you know that they know that who you are and you know who they are.
Yeah.
You know, there's that connection made there.
Yep. And it happens a lot with adults too. I'm not saying that, but kids, because they're not quite as polluted, you know, it happens. I just finished a 3-day body class in Florida one time, and I went out to the beach. It was getting near sunset, and I was just sitting there watching the sunset, sitting on this log, and there wasn't a whole lot of people, but I noticed this guy quite a ways down the beach, and he's like walking toward me, and I'm like, okay, this, like, I'm in Florida, you know, Fort Lauderdale, you don't know what you're gonna get. Anyway, this guy just comes up to me, just like, I mean, it was a while, but he walked up, and he's just standing like 6 feet away, just looking at me, and he wasn't harmed, you know, I didn't get an energy of like having to be concerned or anything. He goes, I don't even know why I walked up to you. I just, like, there was something that, and I was just like, yeah, I get it, right? It's being okay with that today. 5 years ago, or 5 years before that, or whatever, it would have been really kind of weird. But it's today, it's an energy. It's just being that energy and knowing that whatever that person needed, whatever he was gravitated toward, you guys have all experienced that in one way or another. I know that you have. It may not have been that obtuse, but it was some version of that, where somebody was trying to identify you from some other place or whatever. It's not that they necessarily beam in on a face or a body, it's that they recognize the energy that you be. When you're in that full throttle of who you are, where you're like Teflon, right? Like there's nothing that's gonna affect you that day or that week or that moment. And you just are that full expression of you, and you get those kind of responses. And the more that you are being that, the more that will show up. Amy had this really cool thing. Do you want to share about that whole thing with the funeral? That? Yeah? No?
Give me a little bit more. I have more than one
You
thing.
put it out there that you wanted to work with.
Oh yeah, that one.
Wow,
I had more than one
I thought
thing
maybe
at the funeral.
that came to me in a dream.
Yeah. No. So before I left my full-time job, I was like, okay, when I'm fully self-employed and I don't have this like job on the back burner, you know, because it was totally on the back burner. I was like, as soon as I'm done, I have these things that I would like to, you know, get out there. And one of my goals is to like spread TIR all over the place, right? So the funeral home, the fire department, first responders, okay, they're all on my list. So I can't
You
wait
are
to get
in
to
my
it.
freaking head with every one of these topics. And it all makes sense. Okay, sorry, but I just had to, oh my god.
Go ahead.
I didn't hear what you said. You have,
So on my task list,
okay,
to spread the word is the fire department, first responders, and funeral homes. Okay.
okay, about what you do.
For a business,
Okay,
yeah.
thank
You
you.
know what?
So-
Yeah.
yeah, I do. I just, for some reason, I thought you said doTERRA, and then I was like,
Yeah.
well, you then,
Yeah,
I mean, that's cool and everything,
Oh my
but
God.
this is better. So thank you.
Yeah.
So now we gotta give equal time to young living, okay, good. Go ahead.
Thank you.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get to it in the next couple weeks. So I talked about it a couple times, and I went to meet a friend at Starbucks, and I'm sitting there waiting for her to come, and this person that I know comes into Starbucks. Well, I only know her, kind of like, I only know her work-wise, okay? So she comes into Starbucks and she's like, hey, do you like wanna put your stuff in the funeral home?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah? How do you know that? Like, I've never talked to you about this. How do you know that? And she's like, well, I just wanted to let you know that, like, my dad owns the funeral home, and we were talking last night about how there's such a shortage of one-on-one people to work in the funeral home, and so my dad was like, hey, what about Amy? Maybe she wants to put her stuff in. And she was like, yeah, she probably does. And so she's like, do you have a pamphlet? Like, I do. I have one in my car. So I got it out, gave it to her, and within 45 minutes, her dad had taken it to the funeral home, talked to his partner, and went home, told her, yeah, tell her, bring a stack of pamphlets in. And I was like, well, that was easy.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
But here's the other part. You guys are laughing because you know it's real. You know that it's possible. You laugh from familiarity. You know that you've had some version of that in your own lives. And what would it take to have more of that? Because we have it in this reality that we've got to do. Isn't that a song? You're the song guy.
Do.
That's
Da,
how-
da, da. That's all I
Thank
want.
you. I knew I could count on you.
All right, go ahead.
That's why I pay him. So it's really about being that energy. No different than what we were talking about with the kid in the store. It's about being more and more who we are, who you are. And the universe is all ready to respond. It's all sitting right there. It's just like that. It's like, oh, I just put that out there. I just asked the universe. We have this thing that's often talked about called manifestation, but most of it is talked about from a place of doing. It's not,
That's really true.
it's not, where it breaks down, in my estimation, is that, one of the ways anyway, that it's not about how it shows up, it's that it shows up. And what starts to happen when people go to this idea of manifesting or praying, there's this already decided way that it's got to go, and the universe is going, well, wait a minute, you said US dollars, and I had all this gold that's actually more valuable than that sitting right here, but you keep walking by it because you're looking for this dollar pile. It happens all the time. Happens a matter of just, again, bringing that dial in more and more and more and more. And sure, I know personally that not every day goes like that, right? But the more that we're willing to do exactly what you said, right? Recognize that, okay, that's a choice, and that's a choice, and that's a choice, and that's a choice, and this is what I'm choosing in this moment. And I can make another choice in another 10 seconds. This feels the lightest right now, and then you followed it, and you followed it, and you followed it. It is a series of choices, and I'm not gonna be so stupid to think that everyone you made on that path of your journey was always the rightest one first. But you knew, you had a knowing that you could handle it, you were going to get to whatever this was. And you weren't gonna be stopped, and then this is what's possible. For all of us, in whatever it is, does not matter.
One more there. So, I really think that like when people are talking about manifestation, it's always like, you know, oh, this super positive thing happened or whatever it might be. And so, it's not just that though. Like this week, it started for me on Saturday, and I was triggered on Saturday. It continued, like Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So in the like 5.5 months that I have been fully self-employed, I haven't had a whole lot of like downtime. Every time I have downtime, it's there because something's happened. So this downtime that I had was not downtime. I had like stuff I had to do. I had stuff that I had to do. Like I had to work on stuff. If I wouldn't have had that time, I would have been in session with someone with this trigger that I needed to work on. And I know that what's gonna happen is within the next week, what I had to work on is gonna show up because that's what happens, you know? And so I wouldn't be able to sit with that person without being like in my own stuff. So that showed up. And so manifesting is like the time's there too. It's all designed like that. It just happens like that.
Yeah, it just happens.
Yeah, it just happens like that. You gotta let go of the whole like, well, why is it like this? What's going on?
Let it be.
And it's the more that we can disenfranchise the ego, it's really what it's about. It's not that the ego doesn't have a function, it's just that we have acquiesced to its wants a little more than is beneficial. And it's not, and not every, because we talked about this, right? Our soul's intention, our soul's knowing of what it is that we require is never missing a step. It's never missing a step. It's like this inner guidance system. It's like this GPS that's always running, even though we want to reroute every once in a while, and you see the little thing on your GPS spinning until it figures out where you're going, and then it eventually wants to bring you back. No, I'm still going over here because I got to get gas. But it's still rerouting. That's what's always going on. And if we can trust in that knowing that is our true connection with everything that is, was, and will be, that source, universe, God, whatever you choose to call it, it never will misdirect you. It's only Mr. Upin here that wants to override that and do something else. But just trust in that you're never going to be misguided ultimately at any stage of the game. There was a cool video, and I'll just wrap it up with this, that I think I may have told you guys maybe a couple weeks ago, but if I did, I'm going to say it for those that weren't here. I was watching Bashar about 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know if you guys know Bashar, but he's a entity that's sort of energy that's channeled by a guy by a name named Daryl Anka. It's kind of like Abraham and Seth and a bunch of other people that were pretty notoriously booked and out there in the world. Probably the most widely known now is Abraham, but Daryl Anka is in California, and this energy, Bashar, anyway, this gal he was facilitating that day was struggling with something, and she just wasn't getting what he was saying, and so he just stopped. And he looked at her and he said, if you treat everything, and he paused again and he said, everything in your life as the gift it is intended to be, you will be opening presents the rest of your life. And it's really that piece about letting go of, like Michael was saying, any attachment to anything, and then not making whatever that is wrong. Your inner guidance said, no, I don't, like, whatever this is gonna be a contribution, and I'm gonna get there. I know I'm gonna get there. May not be this week, may not be next month, maybe whatever, but you knew somewhere that you were gonna get there. And that's available to all of us with everything, and that's why I love hearing those stories. Because I know that if you can do it, I can do it, and everybody in this room can do it. That's who we are. Any last questions or comments, or are you pointing that she had a question or giving her a
Oh
no,
no,
it's your turn to pen.
Okay. Anything else? No? Lisa will be here next Wednesday. We're all gonna be here on Friday night. Chocolate ready.
Can't wait.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful to you all for showing up and
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can't wait for next Wednesday, Lisa.
Yeah,
Looking forward to
I
it.
know, right?
It's gonna be exciting.
My brain, my sister, I used
You
to
just filled in so many blanks that I've been telling her about for like the last year, all these things.
My
about
older sister,
retirement and
and
secret
at the same time I started a new job as a manager.
I know that, I remember like, and Sarah was like,